In this video, I'm going to go over how to transform first and second person case into third person case. So when we write to friends and family, we use a more casual English, and so it's okay to use first and second person case. I, me, you. But when we're writing for school and when we write for the workplace, we want to use a more formal tone and a more formal English. So that's why we would then use third person case for a more professional tone. And so in this essay, I will teach you how to get rid of your first and second person case and have a more professional tone with third person case. So let's get going. New generation parents, including myself, have a big issue pinpointed by older generation parents, as my mother, with electronics. I can hear my mother subconsciously whispering, "Get off that iPad." This is an issue that is very difficult to ignore. I am aware that my children spending too much time on electronics is frowned upon. You need an ED after frowned. But it has become easy to let them use the iPad so they can calm down, and I be proactive in whatever I need to do as a full-time employee, mom, and wife. I have seven 3-year-old daughters. I realize now that having more control over having access to their iPad is extremely important. I find that it will be better to implement a plan that will limit their exposure to screen time. This plan will include taking care of chores to earn screen time, regulate the amount of time on a daily basis, and to implement their favorite hands-on activities as alternatives instead of using the iPad. And so you did a very good job with your essay structure. You have your thesis statement with 3 solid reasons that become your topic sentences. And so here you have your "I find it more effective and less stressful to implement a plan for access to the iPad." And here you talk about implementing a plan right here that will limit their exposure to screen time. And so I want to work instead on having more, getting rid of first and second person case and having more third person case. And so here, if I want to turn this paragraph into third person case, new generation parents have pinpointed to the younger generation parents that they want their kids to get off the iPad. Having your kids get off the iPad is very important and is an issue that is very difficult to ignore. When kids spend too much time on electronics, that is frowned upon. But it has become easy for parents to let their children use the iPad in order to get the children to calm down. And so instead of saying "I be proactive," parents need to be proactive in getting their kids off the iPad. Many parents work full-time and are not only full-time employee, they are also single moms or wives. Many people have young children, such as this author has a 7 and 3-year-old daughter. This author now realizes that having more control over having access to their iPad is extremely important. Then you get rid of I find. It will be better to implement a plan that will limit a child's exposure to screen time. This plan will include having the child take care of chores to earn screen time, having the child regulate the amount of time they spend on the computer on a regular basis, daily basis, and having the child implement their favorite, having the parents implement their child's favorite hands-on activities as alternatives instead of using the iPad. So I got rid of all of the first person and second person case, and I made everything into third person case. All right, so now I'm going to transfer this paragraph into third person case. So it is more effective and less stressful to implement an effective plan to get your kid to spend less time. To get the kids. See, even I make the mistake. So let's do that again. It is much more effective and less stressful for the parent is to implement a plan so that the children can spend less time on an iPad on a daily basis. So you replace I with parents. Parents need to make it a point so that their children do certain chores such as picking up their toys, homework, tidying up arts and crafts, painting, and organizing Barbie dream houses will earn that child a certain amount of time on the iPad. In other words, have rewards. Parents need to make spending time on an iPad a reward for doing chores. To make this idea more fun, and then you get rid of I believe, creating a colorful chart with Disney princess stickers will visually stimulate kids to spend more time being active, to earn more screen time without them being so focused, this needs an ED, on the iPad. This author has noticed that once their kids clean up and refocus on playing with each other, this author has noticed their children spending less time on the iPad. So if parents can schedule in shower and bedtime stories as alternatives to iPads, children will spend less time on an iPad. Parents can use iPad screen time as rewards for behaving and for kids doing their chores. Suggesting on how kids use their screen time can also be very beneficial. And then you get rid of to me. It is recommended that parents need to use so get rid of I can recommend, and you can write it is recommended, or parents recommend, or this author recommends that that parents need to use some quiet time when they are working, doing homework, or need to get work done around the house. Parents, so you can replace I with parents. Parents need to follow a schedule to complete all of their work. The key thing is never to give one option for kids. Kids need to have many different options of many things to do besides spending time on an iPad. So parents need to give their kids or teach their kids how to have many different options in order for the kids to entertain themselves. Since the children are young, since this author's children are young, giving them screen time with another option such as jungle gym or making slime might deviate them towards the hands-on options. And so teaching kids that there are other options besides the iPad will help them reduce time on the iPad. And then we get rid of, as we all know, kids don't forget anything. And so here you want to just write the topic sentence from your thesis statement. And so here you would write whatever the thesis statement, the topic sentence is. And so, as we all know, kids don't forget anything, nothing at all. They're quick to remind, well, Mom, you said, and we cannot ignore that. So at some point, we do have to give in on their time. That is when we go back to the chart. Okay, so here you could write, children do not forget anything. Children are quick to remind their parents what chores they need to do. And children are quick to remind their parents that they have earned reward points on the iPad for having done their chores. So in order to get kids to get off the iPad, parents need to go back to their Disney chart mentioned previously, and parents need to set an allotted time for each for iPad time, and set certain amounts of time for the iPad. And therefore, the kids can discipline themselves and learn to discipline themselves and not spend all of their time on an iPad. Parents need to teach children how to create a schedule for the iPad, or need to create a rewards system so that for each 5 minutes of an iPad time, that's equal to one chore. So setting an allotted time per sticker is important to communicate with them. This author speaks with her kids and her 7-year-old, and her children loves to watch Ania and Alicia, and her children can't get enough of Coco Melon, Ava, and Dave. So this parent has found that teaching children to watch educational shows or cartoons as alternatives to the iPad is a good idea to keep their children from spending too much time on an iPad. Therefore, it is important to focus on having balance. If parents can give their children good structure and good routine to minimize their urge to spend time on the iPad, then their kids will spend less time in front of a screen. So, parents have to control or monitor this amazing technology, because it is so easy for parents to fall into the temptation of just letting their kids spend time in front of a screen in order to calm the kids down, or in order to have free time for the parents to do other things. And so parents need to use iPad screen time. And here in your, I believe this is your conclusion. Yes. So in your conclusion, you need to restate your thesis statement as the first sentence of the last paragraph. So you restate 3 ways in which children can spend less time on the iPad are, and then you restate the 3 things that you said. Okay, 3 ways is to have kids take care of chores to earn screen time, regulate the amount of time on a daily basis, and to implement their favorite hands-on activities as alternatives instead of using the iPad. So you're going to repeat that thesis statement again as the first sentence of the last paragraph. Then you're going to summarize takeaway lessons in your conclusion so that your reader would get closure and understand what takeaway lessons they need to understand after reading this essay. And so basically what you need to do is to get rid of your first and second person case and replace your first and second person case with third person case. And if you do have to mention yourself, you can say, this author has a 3-year-old, or this author has a 7-year-old. This author has found in her experience. So you can write about yourself a couple of times in third person case. You don't just try not to overdo that, this author, but you can use it a couple of times. So if you use third person case, you will end up with a paper that sounds much more professional and much better for the teacher to read, and much less conversational. So the whole object of week 3 is in our discussion of tone and occasion, is that when we write for the teacher, when we write in the workplace, we want to use a more formal tone of English, and in order to do that, we write our entire paper in third person case so that our paper does not sound conversational and have informal English. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me.